All right, this one's a little bit more exciting because this is the integration between our own applications. And so as much time and effort as we spent developing integrations with outside vendors, we've definitely spent significantly more than that time working on the integration between our own applications. So if you've been a Zoho user for more than a few years, then you probably have seen how these integrations between the applications have gotten better over time. We're constantly trying to improve it and make it something that's more useful for your teams. And so when we talk about the integration between our support and marketing and sales applications, a big piece of that is obviously the data transfer, making sure that the team's not having to go and enter information into more than one spot. But I think that a bigger part of that is the contextual data that you're going to get from that. So the information that's going to pull from the other applications over so that they're not having to switch between the applications to kind of see what they need to in a different spot. And context is important even outside of sales, right? I don't know if any of you guys have seen, there's this really funny YouTube video, and it's like a Mary Poppins trailer, but they just took snaps of it and put scary music behind it, so it looks really like a horror film instead of a children's movie. I wish I could show it. I totally would, but if it didn't load, it'd be really embarrassing, so I'm not going to do that. But definitely check it out if you've never seen it, because it's really funny. But the idea there is just something out of context and how amusing that is. And just the same, it's really funny if you hear a salesperson give a customer a call and they didn't really understand the full picture of what's going on with that customer if they didn't have the right context. So if they didn't understand that maybe that sales rep was already talking to someone else and they've already probably been through 3 or 4 different people and they're kind of giving them the spiel like it's a brand new application or a brand new prospect. Things like that, it's probably really mortifying for the salesperson, but those are the types of things that you don't want to happen to your team. So the most context that you can provide for them, the more helpful it will be in them being able to sell more. So we're going to dive right into this. We're going to talk about the integration between CRM and Sales IQ. So CRM is our sales tracking contact management application, and Sales IQ is your website visitor monitoring application. And the way that the data transfers between these two is typically that a customer comes to your website, they're checking everything out on your page. If they start chatting with one of your agents, then the agent can actually add them as a lead or contact directly into the CRM right from there. They don't have to hop over to the CRM and create the contact. They'll be able to directly inside Sales IQ just say, let's add this person. Similarly, if they're already in your CRM account, when they come into the Sales IQ application, then they would be able to figure that out. Once the agent starts chatting with them and gets their contact info, they'll be able to pull that up on the right-hand side for the contextual information that comes over from the CRM. And if they actually came to the site before and that's how they got in the CRM, then as soon as they revisit your site, you're going to know who they are because it's going to remember their IP address and it's going to pull up their information for you immediately. So the way that that looks is this is a little chat session that I have here. And in this case, this person visited the site and started chatting with the agent, and that little box had come up asking them to enter their contact information. They did, and then immediately they discover, oh, this person's already in the CRM, and they've got some information on them. So as the agent continues to chat with them and finds out some more about what they want, they're able to go ahead and create an opportunity from directly inside Sales IQ. They don't have to hop back over to the CRM. That's all something that they'll be able to do right here. So the way that this kind of flowed down, they came in, they did a chat, they updated their information, and as soon as they did that, they were able to link them with their record in the CRM. Now, how do they get into your CRM account before that? We don't really know at this point. We'd have to go and check out their lead source. But it could have been from a trade show. You could have manually added them. Maybe they called in and they didn't do a chat session before. There's a number of ways that that could happen. But the point is, once you get their contact information, it's going to recognize that they're already in the CRM and pull that up for you. Now on the CRM side, it's going to pull all of your visits, the people that have been pushed over into the CRM from Sales IQ, and it's going to kind of categorize them based on how they are labeled in your CRM account. So if they are a lead or contact, if you've got an open potential or open deal with them, or if they're a customer, there's somebody that's got a closed won deal from you already, that's going to kind of filter out this way. And when you click on a specific person, you're able to see all of the specifics on their visitor history. So what pages they've been on, how much time they've spent on your website, all of that information. And then on the right, you're going to see what data you have for them inside the CRM account, as far as the deals that you have, maybe any activities that you've logged, your conversations, all that. Now, this is important because for sales teams, there's usually two main objectives. There's building your pipeline and closing deals. And if you're building out your pipeline, something like Sales IQ can help you with that, like grabbing those website visitors, getting more information, getting that added over into the system. But closing the deal is going to require a lot of follow-up. So they need to figure out how are they going to prioritize these leads that they're getting from Sales IQ and all these other sites. This is a way that they can do that. They can look at this information and they can determine, you know what, this person's been spending a lot of time on our site. We've had some deals with them in the past. I think there's a pretty good chance that we could close this. So we should give it a little extra love. Maybe it's near the end of the month and you want to hit those numbers. This is a good way to kind of determine who you should be prioritizing and reaching out to. All right, so we'll talk next about the integration between Sales IQ and Campaigns. So you know about Sales IQ. Campaigns is our email marketing tool. So that's where you're going to use to send out your newsletters and your email campaigns and all that good stuff. So the integration between the two might seem a little odd, but it actually is really helpful. What you're able to do is connect these so that whenever you send out a mail campaign, somebody clicks on a link inside your email, they're going to be sent directly to your website. And then once they're on your website, you're going to be able to engage and chat with them, see that they're on your site, all of that good stuff, just like you can do with Sales IQ. But the added benefit of being able to integrate the campaigns in Sales IQ is that you know they came from that campaign. So when we look at Sales IQ, this is typically what it looks like when there's nobody on your website. And these outer rings determine the level of engagement or the level of priority that you know you want to reach out to or start chatting with this person. If you have a lot of people on here, this can be difficult. Right now it's empty. If somebody comes on here, it probably doesn't matter. I'm going to chat with anybody. I want to talk to them. But if I've got 10 different people on here and I'm the only chat person or the only salesperson working the chat, I'm going to need to figure out who I'm going to talk to first. So being able to set priority levels and figure out who am I going to engage with before anybody else. And that's where you're able to customize your website visitors. So you can actually say, you can do it based on how much time they're spending on your site, but with the campaigns integration, you'll be able to say, hey, if they clicked on, they opened this campaign and that's how they got here, I want to make sure that those are shown as top priority to me because I want to make sure that I can chat with them first. At this point, they've shown that they're really interested, they've opened my email, they're on my website, so there's a good chance that they would be more likely to engage with me than a random visitor that just showed up and I don't really know any other details about them. And then when you start chatting with them, you're able to see contextual information. So any campaign that was sent to them is going to show up there. It's going to show when they came in or when they were sent that campaign. The CRM data, if you have it. So if this was a guy that maybe you went to a trade show and you got a list from that show, and you imported that into campaigns and you sent out a consent campaign to kind of get the ball rolling, they come to your website, that's probably their first engagement. You don't have them in your CRM account yet, so you don't know anything, but this gives you a way to kind of start chatting with them and add that information. But if they already are in your CRM, you'll be able to see that. And another really cool thing you can do, and we're going to talk more about the support side of this here in a minute, but you can actually convert this chat as a ticket. So this can come in really handy if the chat is kind of moving along and it seems like they're interested in a demo, or maybe they end up starting to say, hey, I have some questions on this and it's a little bit too technical for the sales team to understand. They can convert this as a ticket and it'll create a ticket over in your help desk, over in Zoho desk. So then the support agents can kind of take over from there. They'll be able to see the conversation and what was asked. They'll have the full idea of what happened and then they can kind of move forward with it. All right, so we'll talk about the campaigns CRM integration now. So the CRM and campaigns, so this is probably the integration that I see people take advantage of the most. It's probably because CRM is our most popular application. Don't tell the other applications I said that, but it really is. This is the one that most of our customers are utilizing. And campaigns is just kind of the close next second as far as a complement with the CRM. And you're able to integrate these two so that any of the contacts you're adding into the CRM can be deposited over into Zoho campaigns as well. So you can send newsletters, you can send different drip campaigns and different promotions and things like that. You can do mass emailing inside the CRM, but It's a little bit prettier in campaigns. You have a lot more analytics options and things like that. So the context can be synced over into campaigns. And then on the campaign side, whenever you send out a campaign, it's going to create a record in the CRM. So you're going to see the campaign record, you're going to see the details on that campaign, and then related to that, you're also going to be able to see which contacts received it. So just to show you guys what this looks like, this is a quick snapshot of the integration points on the campaign side. I'm actually going to show you guys what this integration looks like. We're going to walk through syncing that together just because it does seem to be a little bit tricky sometimes. But just for a reference, this is where it kind of shows you, this is what's going to happen between the integration. If I showed the other integration point, it would just be a list of contacts, and that might not be as helpful. On the CRM side, whenever you send out a campaign through Zoho Campaigns, it creates this campaign record, and it gives you a snapshot of that campaign, gives you the details on the analytics of that campaign, and then it shows you the information on who it was sent to. So when I go into a contact that received my campaign, I'll be able to see this nice related list here, and that campaign record is listed underneath it. So if I send him a bunch of different campaigns, they would all be listed here, and I'd be able to see how they were performing. All right, so what about support? Right, this is important. Your sales, we talked about the sales and the marketing integrations and how those kind of different pieces work. But what about the help desk integration? How does that work with this? So the CRM and desk connect in a way that lets you see your tickets that are coming into Zoho Desk contextually inside the CRM. When you go into a contacts record, you're going to be able to see all of the tickets, whether they're open, closed, what kind of feedback you've received, all of that. And this is really helpful for the sales team because they usually want to know what's going on, right? They want to know if the customer's been having any problems, if the customer's had some unanswered issues so far, if they have had any escalations. All of this stuff is good to know for the sales side because they really don't want to call a customer that's not happy and ask them to give them their money, right? They want to know what's going on. So if you take a look at this, on the desk side, this is going to create a view inside desk of the tickets, and it's filtering them based on how they are connected in your CRM. So if they're a leader contact, if they're a potential, or if they have a closed deal, you'll be able to kind of see a snapshot of this. And it's important to note, because not a lot of people realize this, but Desk can be used by more than just your support team. Your sales team can use Desk as well. You can set up a sales@yourdomain.com, and then all of those inquiries just push over into Desk automatically. And that way the sales team can kind of pick them up. That's another method of building out their pipeline, is just pick up those tickets and then sync them over into the CRM and then start working them. But so this view can be helpful for both of those scenarios, right? If you're a sales team, figuring out how to prioritize your leads, figuring out, or your tickets that you need to respond to. Obviously the ones that are connected to potentials, those are probably the most important. These are ones that there's a deal actively in my pipeline. The ones that are customers already, you probably want to keep them happy too, because you might be able to upsell to them later, or you certainly want to keep them as a customer. And then your leads and contacts, that's what helps build out your pipeline. From the support side, this is important too, right? The support team is interested in making sure that those deals close. A lot of times they have a vested interest in that as well. So this helps them prioritize and know who they should be responding to. Hopefully they're going to respond to all of the tickets, right? But they definitely need to know, not all tickets are equal. They need to know which ones they need to jump on first. So on the CRM side, I mentioned it's going to create a contextual related list for Zoho Desk, a related list for Zoho Desk, and it's going to list any tickets that you have open. So if we have a customer, in this case, we've got Trey, and he submitted a ticket. And if I'm a sales rep and I go into that record, I know I'm doing some follow-ups, and Trey's one of the people that I need to reach out to. When I go into Trey's record, I scroll down and I see that he's got this open ticket in Zoho Desk. And I'm wondering, what's that about? I want to know before I call him. So I click on the ticket, and I'm able to kind of read through the thread. And I see that the support agent, in this case, Dawn's responded to him already. Dawn's answered some questions. They've gone back and forth, and Dawn eventually realizes, you know what, it'd be better to call this guy and give him a demo, because at this point, he's very interested and he's got a lot of questions, and I'd rather walk him through it. So when they do that, they have the demo. At this point, the sales rep doesn't really know anything about what's going on. They've just read through this thread. But they can directly in here comment on the ticket. So when they open up the ticket, they can read those threads, and then they can just jump over into the comment section and they can add any comment that they want that will go over to the support person. So they tag them, the support person gets a notification, and then they're able to communicate with the sales rep and let them know how everything went. So now when the sales rep gives the customer a call, they're fully prepared. And this is important. I see this happen a lot, that doesn't happen. If you don't have any sort of integration like this, especially sales teams, they're just going to call someone up. They're wanting to see how things are going and try and move through the pipeline, but they don't think about the fact that there could be problems that they don't know about. So I always do this on my end. I don't work in sales, but even when I'm calling a new person, I always check and make sure there's no open tickets, because I definitely want to make sure that I'm not stepping into what could be a beehive. But even if it's not a bad ticket, it's just, somebody asking a question, you want to be prepared. You want to be able to answer any questions that might come up. And if you're really proactive, you can just address it before they even ask it. So they think you're really smart. All right. So in addition to this is also going to give you notifications, not only when a ticket comes in, but also when there's an escalation. So this is very much related to that, right? If a ticket gets escalated, the sales rep's probably the first one that needs to know, because their deal's in trouble at that point. Even if it's with an existing customer, the customer might go away, or there might not be an upsell opportunity anymore. So you definitely want to get those real-time notifications, and that's what you'd be able to do with this connection. All right, so let's take a look at how this all shows in the CRM. So the integration between the applications is fairly simple. When you go into your setup menu, you'll see this option here for Marketplace, and you'll see the option for Zoho. So when you scroll down, you'll see the spot for Zoho Desk. If it's not connected yet, when you click on this, it'll ask you to integrate, and you're going to be able to put in your email, and it's going to ask for something called a ZSC key. The ZSC key can be found when you are inside any of your applications. It'll show you guys where it lives in the CRM. When we go into setup and then under developer space APIs, we come into this here. This is our ZSC key. So you're able to copy this. A lot of times the integrations might ask for this. Sometimes you've already done it in the past and you don't remember that's where it's at, so you want to go back and get it again. But this ZSC key is important for connecting campaigns, for connecting survey, and a lot of the other applications. You're going to need this. Some of the applications work a little bit different. If you go into Sales IQ, when you go into your setup menu under channels, you'll click on the chat option. And then you'll see here, I've already got mine connected, but if I didn't, I would be able to associate it with the right portal. So if we've got multiple Sales IQ portals, you'll be able to select from those here and then choose who it needs to be connected to. So sometimes connection is that simple. There's not a lot involved with it. We're going to take another look at the campaigns integration though, just because I know that's the one that trips people up the most. All right, so when we're inside Zoho Campaigns, when you're ready to set up the sync between the CRM and campaigns, you'll just go into the option for contacts here, and then you'll choose this sync services option. So once you're here, if it's not connected at all, it'll just like these other grayed out guys, it'll say there's nothing connected, nothing associated. You'll be able to connect them and it'll ask for your ZSC key. So that magic long string of characters that we found earlier, you'll be able to grab those and paste them in here. But if you've already got it connected, then this is where you can actually set up the syncs. So telling it what data needs to pull over, because there's a lot of information that lives in the CRM. It's not going to pull everything, right? So you go into the CRM, you can create a new sync. We can choose to make this either an immediate sync or it can be a periodic sync. So we'll go with periodic just so we want it to happen regularly. And then we can choose the module that we want to sync up with. So we'll do leads in this case. And then it's going to ask for a sync name. So you can just call it leads. And now when you're asked about the view that you want to sync over, you can do all leads or you can do a custom view. I see a lot of people select custom view. You can do this. I usually recommend as a best practice that the better thing to do is to actually sync all leads. And the reason why is because if you sync a particular segment that you've created inside the CRM, and then you want another segment over in campaigns later, you're just going to have to manually go in and create another sync. So you're going to have to keep doing that each and every time. And it can kind of get difficult. And there is also a sync limit. Eventually, after you add a bunch of syncs, you'll have to start going in and deleting old syncs and creating new ones. and it's a lot of trouble. But if you come in here and you say sync all leads, then you can actually create segments within that list that you created. And there really is no, you can choose all of the fields that you want. So any of your custom fields, anything like that from the CRM, you can push those over into campaigns. And then you can just create the segments in there. And I usually just recommend that's a lot easier than having to create a bunch of different separate syncs based on the views that you have in the CRM. If you're worried about the fact that you might have some junk mixed in with all contacts or all leads and you don't want to do it that way, another option that you have here is that you can just go into the CRM and create kind of a master view, what I would call like an active leads or an active contacts, and get all of those guys filtered out into that. And then you've got one nice big master list that you can sync over into campaigns, and you can segment from there. So in this case, we're going to go with all leads. And then we can choose the list we want to sync it to. We can also create a brand new one here. And then it's going to ask for details on, do we want to exclude people who've opted out? You probably want to exclude people who've opted out, right? Like you don't want to keep sending emails to people that have opted out in the past. I usually recommend against removing them entirely just because you never want to delete someone. If you delete somebody once they opt out, then maybe you meet them at a trade show again next month and you forgot that they opted out, like you had no way of knowing because they got deleted. So if you do this instead, it's just removing them from the campaign and it kind of eliminates the risk of something like that happening. So we can select these options. We can also set how often we want the data to sync. So we can do this as a daily sync. And then we can say if we want it to retrieve everything that's in that module or just data after a certain time. So this is another way you can kind of get around. If you're worried about having a lot of junk, maybe it's old contacts from forever and they've just lived in your CRM but you haven't done anything with them, you can use this as kind of a point for that. And then we will go forward. Then this next page is where you can actually set up the field mapping. So this is where I mentioned before, all of your fields that are in the CRM that you want to bring over into campaigns, you can do that. You can just keep adding all of the fields until you've got them all pushed over, and then that's going to help you with segmenting later because they're all that data is going to be in there just the same as it was the CRM. So whatever criteria you use for creating those list views, you'll be able to do the same thing here. All right, and then you initiate that, and that's all there is to it. It is a little bit more involved than just being able to go somewhere and click and select from a drop-down. But once you do this, and especially if you do this all leads, do this with all of your contacts, I recommend to do that as well, then the data is synced up and you're good to go. You can start sending out campaigns right away. All right, so just a quick recap. What we're offering here, or what the applications kind of have, is a nice end-to-end integration. Somebody comes into your website, and that's tracked on Sales IQ. They chat with your agent. The agent is able to add them as a lead or a contact automatically over into the CRM. On the CRM side, that's automatically going to sync to campaigns. From there, you can create campaigns, you send them out to your customer, they get that email, they like what they see, they click on the link, they end up back in Sales IQ. On the Sales IQ, that agent, once again, they see a repeat customer, they know, or repeat visitor, I should say. They know a little bit about them. They know that they're really interested. They've been reading your emails and they've been chatting with you and visiting all these different pages. So there is a real opportunity there. They can convert their chat messages over to a ticket. So if they chat with them and they're able to determine, hey, I think that we could set up a demo with this person, they can convert that to a ticket. So the support team gets notified right away. They can follow up and have the demo with the customer. They can communicate with the sales rep and let them know. The sales rep gets a notification inside the CRM as soon as that happens. So they're able to continuously all work together. And a lot of times it doesn't require anybody to have to leave and go into any other application to view anything. They're all able to use what they regularly do every day. And those contextual informations and integrations are going to push over and let them know from within that application. All right, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much.